What's up, guys? So in this video we're going to be speaking about polygyny, the non-monogamous nature of humans, sister wives in polygyny, and how this relates to feminine energy. And I'm joined by the lovely
Iman.
Right now, I've spoken about this a lot in previous videos and so on, and I think it's something that's very important for us to tackle as a species, as a culture, because we always see every single day people are doing content basically highlighting the non-monogamous nature of humans, and it's something that many people don't want to accept, which is why they find themselves in situations where they could be lied to, cheated on, deceived, and no one wants that, do they? Right? So on some capacity, we start by saying this, right? When you see the sexual nature of women, it tends to be hypergamous, which means women select the best possible male, and this relates to the fact that from an evolutionary perspective, this would be the guy that helps her to maintain some survival under natural conditions. But then the flip side of that for a man is the fact that he's programmed with a polygamous nature, and that is him feeling the desire to be with more than one woman, because under natural conditions this would enable him to have more children, which helps him to reproduce himself. So this is the trade-up that we see. Survival for a woman, reproduction for a man is what they're both seeking in each other, and that together creates the polygynous nature of humans. And I think it's very important for us to highlight, not every single guy, because a woman might hear this and be like, oh my God, so there's every single guy wants to be with more than one woman and so on. And that's not necessarily the case, but it is the case that on some level, for both men and women, there's a non-monogamous nature that we have to take into account. And if you don't take it into account, it's still going to be there, which is why we find ourselves in these situations where people encounter it and they don't like it, but we just have to account for it in some way. So when I think about how this relates to how women and feminine energy, and how we can see throughout history that men with multiple wives or women who were sister wives had the potential to engage in collaboration, connection, and cooperation, that's something that's good for the feminine energy. But I want to know, because I don't want to go on too long, is there anything that comes up for you with this subject?
Historically, women have always wanted to gather together. Women have always gathered together ceremoniously in familial settings and environments. And it is that connection of feminine to feminine energy that is really powerful. It's the ability to gather in space together as women that enables all of the beautiful, wonderful qualities of feminine energy to truly be expressed, and to be expressed in a space of safety. And so when we talk about the polygynous nature of humans, and we're thinking about the structure where the man has multiple wives, essentially what you're doing is building this beautiful foundation for an empire, because you are using the power of the feminine energy and the feminine spirit to multiply. And so you often hear this sort of phrase or this idea that when you give a woman something, she multiplies it. So imagine giving more than one woman something, how much more you would have. One woman on her own is great and she can multiply, but having multiple women all supporting, collaborating, connecting, and thriving in that feminine energy is so much more beneficial, not just for the man, but also for the women in that structure and in that relationship. So it can provide a beautiful foundation for all those things.
Yeah. And I think what stops many women from being able to even sometimes consider being open to it, you could say, is because they're attributing their bad experiences of men who were unrighteous and cheated and lied, and they link the feeling of that and the experience of that and think it's the same thing as the historical ancient practice of, polygynous or plural marriages, So is there anything that you want to say on that?
I think that is true, and certainly it's been my own personal experience as well. When women have experienced cheating in relationships, that often leaves a sour taste in their mouth, and so when they then move forward with a man who wants to engage in polygynous practices, that can throw them off because it incites those feelings of jealousy, and it probably triggers old wounding for a lot of them. But I think what's really important is acknowledging this aspect of agreement. The difference between an upfront polygynous relationship and being in a relationship where your partner cheats is informed consent, if you like, or informed agreement. I know up front what I'm getting from a polygynous relationship versus the feeling of being lied to, betrayed, and hurt by my partner cheating on me. And so in one situation, I can either give my agreement to that or not, if it's for me or if it isn't for me. And in the other one, it's happening to me whether or not I give my agreement to it. And that agreement, if you like, that informed agreement, that informed consent that the woman enters the situation with, is actually empowering for the woman, because she gets to say, well, this is for me, this isn't for me, rather than finding herself in a space where she then has experienced the wounding and the betrayal, etc., from having a partner cheat.
Yeah, exactly. And then what happens is she wants to protect those wounds, and the problem with that is that she uses her less favorable traits to do it. So when I say that, I mean there's nothing wrong if a guy and a girl say it's just going to be me and you and that's it, and it's going to be an exclusive relationship and so on, and both people have decided that's what they want to do and they're fully in it. Because if that happens and no one's forced, then what happens is you can trust that they both asked for it. But what happens is women kind of know men are like this, but then they want to cover up those wounds by forcing the man into those situations, which to me is just as bad as a man forcing a woman to be a part of a non-monogamous situation that she didn't agree to. From both aspects, there's not choice, right? So one thing that stops women from being able to even listen to this is the bad experiences that we spoke about. But what happens then is that they feel more emboldened in wanting to be jealous, possessive, insecure, and selfish, you could say, right? Now, you should never be with a man and say, well, I'm like, with him, I'm just too selfish. Because even if you was just with him, it shouldn't be coming from a I'm possessing you mindset. It should be coming from a I love you mindset. I want the best for you mindset. And if you being just with me is what is the best for you, then I love that. Then you can trust it. Then you don't have to sneak and look inside of his phone and force him and say, why are you looking at that picture on Instagram? You can just allow him to tell you if that's what he's like, which is comfortable for the woman's nervous system. That's
so powerful, comfortable for the woman's nervous system. And I think it's really important for you to understand where you're being triggered by wounding versus, and so that's work for you to do, versus someone that is making you feel uncomfortable within and triggering your nervous system. But that choice thing is so important, and I think people in this day and age often forget to have those very open conversations at the beginning of getting to know each other. Do you want to be in a monogamous relationship, or do you want to be in something that looks slightly different? And if it looks slightly different, what does that look like? What are the boundaries around that, and what are the boundaries around the monogamy, if that's the route that you choose? And I think part of that exploration, if you like, is this very open conversation, but also understanding what your needs are and how those can best be fulfilled. And if it is that you are sort of in alignment in purpose and in vision and in mission, then you can almost offer that out to other people. And it doesn't have to be kept within the confines of a monogamous relationship if that isn't for you. And I think part of that exploration is finding out what people's values are.
Yeah, and sometimes people assume that if I possess someone, then everything's gonna be all good, right? So you could possess someone and still be jealous, insecure, you know, selfish and all of those things. And that's why I highlighted it before. It should never be coming from that place. And we should never actually be proud of our negative qualities. We should want to work on it. So I would never want to be with a woman and still have I'm selfish, I'm jealous, I'm possessive, and I'm insecure, you know, with her. And that's the reason why I'm forcing her. I want it to be because she genuinely chooses to be with me and so on. And then I like what you said about the other thing about needs, is because when you then understand, okay, I'm trying to fulfill my needs rather than just follow along with what, let's say, society has said and just going on automatic programming, then you can literally look at the quality of the relationship rather than just assuming the structure of the relationship automatically means it's a quality relationship. So a man could say he's going to be monogamous to a woman, but that doesn't actually mean he's a quality man and gives her a quality experience. Do you get what I'm saying?
And I think the flip side almost is that a lot of people in monogamous relationships will often sort of sugarcoat or explain away the behaviors of their partner when they are expressing almost their natural instinct or their natural expression in order to not feel triggered from past wounding. And I think that's really important to distinguish. But I love what you say about it should be coming from a place of love, because I've had the thought that really if my partner's love is that powerful, that amazing, that, you know, such high quality as you put it, then I would actually be selfish if I didn't let him share that with the world, if I didn't let other people experience that from him, because I would want people to feel what I feel. And I would want him to share his love with the world because it is that powerful and that life-changing. And I would want people to experience it. And I'm not suggesting that he actually share it with the whole world intimately in the confines of a relationship, because I think he also ought to be selective. But I think it's important to recognize that that is coming from a place of love. You know, I always think of it as if I'm honoring the divinity in my partner and God, source, universe is infinite, then why would my love for him or his love for me be finite? And love in and of itself isn't finite. Love is infinite. So who am I to want to limit that expression of love if that is his natural instinct?
Yeah. And you can only actually have that mindset if you're truly confident, if you truly know your worth, if you truly have self-love. Because if you lack self-love, that will enable the jealousy, insecurity, possessiveness, and selfishness, because you're almost trying to patch up on the lack of self-worth and confidence through those things. So the only type of way you'd be like, for example, if you go to, let's say you're a guy, or you could actually be a woman, it still apply, right? So if you go out to dinner with someone, right, and that person was overly possessive, where there was actually no need to be, you would know that person lacks confidence. So we always know, let's say you see content, you know, on social media. Let's say you was out with a girl and you ordered from the restaurant. You're like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna have this, and me and my lady will have this, and you smiled at the waiter, right? And then she goes, why are you looking at her and smiling? Da, 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 da. You would know that her possessiveness and jealousy, which is illogical at that point, is because she's lacking confidence. Because if she did have confidence, it wouldn't bother her so much, you know? Do you kind of get what I'm saying on that?
I do,
Yeah.
and I think obviously that comes from some trauma or some wounding in the past, which has led to that, and that is just the outward expression of the root of some form of trauma, usually some abandonment, wounding in childhood. But I think generally the jealousy point, especially for sister wives, is an ongoing journey, and I think if you recognize that each of you is going to bring a different expression of the feminine energy or brings different qualities to the family, then there's no need for you to compete in that space, because you're recognizing that we're just playing to different strengths, and that is powerful in itself, because you can recognize the strengths within you and then bring those expressions out more. And actually, competition between women is something that is being conditioned in us. It's not innately feminine for us to compete with each other. It's innately feminine for us to collaborate and to connect and to uplift and empower. But it's interesting how we can do that in some spaces quite comfortably, but then when it comes to other spaces, we're not so good at that.
Yeah, and that last points that he was just talking about is really why I believe that it's extremely empowering for the feminine energy, because you rid yourself of insecurities, because you have to be able to, even for that type of relationship to flourish. But then the other part is then you love on other women. You want best for other women. There's a book called What I Want for My Sisters. What I Want for Myself, I Want for My Sisters, or something like that. You are okay collaborating with women. You don't see other women as competition. So that invites other women to be in their feminine energy. It empowers other women in their femininity. It's just energy of encouragement and so on. So when we think about competition, which is becoming normalized because women feel that there aren't that many great men anymore, which is also why this type of relationship structure is a solution. It's actually become normalized for a woman to say, I'll fight you. I'll fight that woman, And you're looking at another sister saying to yourself, you'll fight her for a man, or you have that type of mindset. Jerry Springer, I talked about this before. Jerry Springer, Maury, it's normalized women fighting over men. And you're fighting because you're fighting for the man whilst basically acknowledging his non-monogamous nature. And why do you have to compete if you can collaborate? And that's what I personally don't understand.
And I think that point about the images and the stories and the narratives that are being pushed out onto women in particular are so misleading, actually, because if you wanted to destroy a nation, you destroy a nation through its women, because women are the creatrixes and we hold the power to birth. But in order to get to the woman, you have to first sort of get rid of her protection. In order to get rid of her protection, you deny a man his natural expression. But if you pit women against each other, you destroy them. You destroy their self-confidence. You destroy their self-worth. You destroy nation building. And that is how the powers that be will help destroy a nation, through its women, through pitting them against each other, instead of showing them what collaboration between women looks like, what building an empire and a nation can look like if everyone in the family is on the same page, on the same frequency, vibing on the same mission, vision, and purpose. So yeah, it's really important to surround yourself by the proper messaging, I think.
Yeah, that makes sense. I often say, to be honest, one of the reasons why we feel justified with our possessiveness, insecurity, and so on is because it's just what we see, and we see it as normalized. But if you go to cultures, particular ones, where with the women, they would never think of competing for a man. Like, it just wouldn't even come into their head. I watched a documentary, I think it was either Kenya or Tanzania, one of those two, and there was 3 women, and you know they had the same husband, and she was saying like, like, why do you guys fight over men in the West? Like, we don't get that. Like, I love my sister, we do things together, we're great, and so on. Like, I couldn't imagine doing that. And actually, it's like something that they want. They said, this particular woman said, I would never want to just be me and him. Then I have to do everything by myself. I have to do all of the household, domestic things by myself. I would be bored when he leaves. Like, so it's just a mindset shift. So those women don't even get it, you know? But yeah, we can wrap it up here. Is there anything else that you want to share, you know, on the topic?
I would say have very open, honest conversations and explore what works for you and what doesn't work for you. Even if this is the lifestyle that you choose, explore what works within the confines of that lifestyle.
And it's all about figuring out what are the ethics of the situation, because no one's saying allow men to just do whatever they want to do, and you're not being like, you don't know what you're in for. That's definitely not the case. So people might say, oh, are you just okay in men doing whatever? No, absolutely not, because you talked before about selectiveness, and actually men engaging in these type of marriages and so on are supposed to be super disciplined, you know? But anyway, good talk. Thank you for joining, you know? If you have anything to say, whether it be in agreement or disagreement, that's fine. Comment down below, let Reemus know, or let us know, and we'll see you in the next video. Peace.